Thank you, everyone, and welcome to our Developing Your Intuition and Psychic Abilities webinar. My name is Trang, and I have with me, of course, you all know her, the lovely psychic medium, Maria Buyukos-Hill. And to anyone that's new, make sure to visit our site at thehappyhealingshop.com, where you can sign up for our email list to get notifications on any future events that we have like this. And so in this webinar, we're going to have Maria explain the 6 different types of psychic abilities. And in the end, we'll have any room for questions and answers that you guys have. And if you're like me, someone loves like coupons, discounts, finding sales, stick around to the very end because we have a very special Black Friday deal to announce. And so I'm just going to start off, Maria, with some general questions I see a lot floating in the comments and everything. But so people kind of maybe get mixed up or between intuition and psychic abilities, or is it actually the same thing?
Yeah, intuition is a psychic ability, I would say, that's kind of the default human psychic ability. And on a basic level, we all have intuition in different ways. And so basically, that's what tells us if there's danger. It's kind of what helps us to understand nonverbal communication a little better. So by default, we all have some sort of intuition. And I would say it is a psychic ability, even at that base level.
And then, so I'm just like looking at TikTok and Zoom at the same time. So, and then this one I've seen people ask too, how can you tell if it's your imagination or if you're actually seeing something and you're clairvoyant? Like, how do you know if you have an actual psychic gift?
So when you're clairvoyantly seeing something, it can take up the same space in your mind's eye. This little, I always point up here. And that's where our imagination is too. So if you're imagining things, it can show up in that same space. So it gets a little confusing. So I like to tell people that imagination is inherently, I believe, metaphysical because it's a multidimensional tool. So we are accessing other levels of other dimensions, other types of collective consciousness, and we're pulling that information into our physical body and mind. So when you are having a kind of routine thought, it tends to be brought up in your mind because of a series of thoughts that kind of continued. You thought of something, you want to keep thinking about it. When you're having a psychic or clairvoyant experience, it may just pop in all of a sudden, and it may not have any context. You might be like, why am I, like, you might meet someone and then suddenly you start getting these images that don't make much sense. And you're like, okay, but why? Like, why? This is so weird. And it may take a lot of time to really understand why that's happening. And that's clairvoyance, for example, because it's just popping in there a lot of times out of context. When you start to practice, you'll start to understand the context and the symbology, and you can kind of build a little library over time.
Like Sugar Banana wrote, "Your voice is so soothing."
Oh, thank you. I used to hate my voice when I was a kid because literally it was this deep when I was about like 10 years old. So it was really awkward for a while.
Man voice.
I literally had a man voice.
For those who are wondering which psychic gifts that you have, we'll dive into it soon. But we do have a quiz, and it's linked for those who are on TikTok or Instagram. It's our link in our bio that says quiz. And for those who are on Facebook or just floating online, you can just visit our website, and the pop-up will show up and say like, "Hey, sign up for our quiz." So, and I'll also include the link below on YouTube once I post this as well. Okay, so Practical Life 101, how can developing these psychic abilities or intuition help me in real life?
That's a super great question. So when you're in touch with your psychic abilities, the very first thing I say that brings peace into one's life is that you're not fighting, you're not resisting, you're not, constantly insecure about what's happening because you feel like maybe you're losing your mind. That's the biggest thing. It almost becomes a burden where you feel like you can't go about your normal day because you're always wondering what's going on and why these strange things are happening. So that's one big thing about acceptance. So once you get to that place, you can actually use your gifts to stay out of trouble, to be able to understand if someone's lying to you, if someone is, not what they project out in the world. You'll be able to also, if you're a parent and you have a child, you can more easily almost telepathically communicate with them and understand very deeply what they really need and what they're really feeling, even if they can't communicate well all the time. This especially comes in handy if you're a parent of a child on the spectrum or a child who's not very verbal, has trouble communicating. It really, you building your psychic abilities can help you understand them more deeply. Also, I can give a personal example of how psychic abilities help me in work all the time. I design software for a living, and I'm able to solve really complex problems because I'm using all these different psychic senses to bring in information from other dimensions. So I'm able to very quickly bring in some solutions that would normally take a lot longer because I'm not just going through the standard process. I'm just reaching out, bringing stuff in, and getting to move through ideas faster. So a lot of inventors, for example, have that kind of connection with their psychic abilities, even if they don't realize it. Also, if you're someone who loves animals, honing your psychic ability can really give you such a different bond with them. It can really be such a healing experience to understand them on such a different psychic level. And it does lead a lot of people to want to work with animals in a healing way. I noticed it's just kind of a natural thing that happens. So those are a few ways that honing your psychic abilities can really help you.
Okay, right before we dive into the 6 types of psychic abilities, I want to put a disclaimer for everyone out there. First, check out your health with your doctor first. So get your eyes checked if you're like, I'm not sure, or if hearing things and whatnot. So we had someone actually that saw orbs and they were like, oh no, my eyes. So the doctor's like, come in quick, you're going blind. And she got checked out twice and the doctor's like, no, your eyes are fine. So, then maybe look into like, maybe this is a psychic thing. So obviously first thing I want to say is check your physical health first. And then, so continuing on. So could you go through, there's 6 different types of psychic abilities, and can you tell us what they are and give a few signs, or I guess symptoms, on how a person might have that gift?
Yeah. So let's start with clairvoyance. That's the first one that a lot of people always want to know about. And for some reason, people put clairvoyance like above the others because it's visual, but it's really just a different gift. They're all awesome and powerful. Clairvoyance is psychic seeing in your mind's eye, and sometimes also seeing with your physical eyes. Apparitions, symbols, colors, people's auras. You can even see people's auras in your mind's eye as just flashes of color. You may not see it over their body. You may just see colors coming in randomly, or different symbols, or different, scenes might come up. So if you're a very visual person, normally just automatically, you may have tendencies that are more clairvoyant, and you could hone that a little more easily because that's kind of something that you're naturally developed in. So a lot of clairvoyant people have a tendency to want to maybe express things visually. Maybe they like decorations, they like art, creativity, crafts, whatever, painting, even if in different ways. And there's a big scale spectrum of how creative that goes. But that's some of the ways that you understand you're clairvoyant, is you get a lot of images. When someone tells you a story, you're visually just, running through the whole story in your head. And it's like you're there, like a visual experience. And just because clairvoyant images aren't clear doesn't mean you're not clairvoyant. At first, they might come in kind of fuzzy when you're first learning about your clairvoyance. They might be kind of difficult to get details on, but with practice, you can clear that up over time. Yeah, go ahead.
And then also, some people, they say they see glitter, orbs, or shadows, or like flashes of light. Or some people say they see like spider-like shadows in the corner of their eyes. So and then some might say like, I see a green light instead. Or so are they seeing the same thing? Are those all spirit guides, and people just happen to see them in different ways? Because I think some people are getting the impression like, oh, maybe it means a different thing if it's glitter. Maybe it's something different if it's a shadow.
It's, the thing is, there are pretty much infinite types of energy beings, elemental spirits, extraterrestrial energies, ancestors, angels and other types of divine beings, and also lower dimensional beings. There's a whole world of those. So it's really hard to say for sure. It depends on the person. Sometimes the little sparkles I notice can be sometimes elementals, or even, a sign that your angels are near, guides are near, but it's different for everyone. The sparkles, I don't think always mean the same thing. I have heard a few people say that they know it's elementals when they see the sparkles. I've had that experience as well, but I can't say that's it 100% of the time. Also, shadows, don't be afraid if you're seeing shadows out of this like corners of your eyes and stuff, or even dead on. It just because it's darker doesn't mean it's bad. It's just a lot of times it takes a lot of energy for a being to manifest energetically into a form that is visible. And if there's not enough energy they can pull to fully manifest, they're kind of incomplete and they can just look like this really creepy shadow outline. But pay attention to how you feel when you see that shadow. Because yes, there are malevolent shadow people. Yes, sure. There are extraterrestrials that mask their identity. Sure. But you have to feel what that is to you, because it's different and we can't lump them in the same category. Also, sometimes you may catch like little shapes or like weird patterns out of the corners of your eye. We're literally living in a matrix. So once in a while, you might accidentally catch the fabric of what makes it up. And it does a lot of times look very geometric. When you close your eyes, you actually might see this too. You might start seeing fractals and like webbing and mandala type stuff. You're seeing the fractal, basically the architecture of this fabric that creates this universe. And it can be very strange. So you might just get kind of a little glimpse of it, not the full thing. So yeah, pay attention to how you feel with each of these and follow your intuition. So if you're seeing sparkles and you're like, that to me feels like grandma, please trust that. Like, just because someone else saw sparkles and felt it was like elementals, that's their experience. So I just want to make that little note as well.
And what about seeing repeating numbers? A lot of people seem to be getting that. So what does it mean? And is that clairvoyance?
Yeah. So repeating numbers, if it's in your mind's eye, is a type of clairvoyance. Some people are more drawn to numbers. Maybe they work with numbers. Maybe they're fascinated by numbers. And, as a clairvoyant, you might see numbers in your head. You might be really good at math and be able to visualize solutions without doing the work, which might get you in trouble when you're in school. That's one way clairvoyant number seeing can show up. But seeing numbers out in your environment and your day-to-day life, like that's more in the synchronicity realm, which is a communication from another dimension for sure. Like, if you're seeing repeating like numbers like 333, 444, 1111, or your birthday, or like the date that someone died, like in number form over and over, that is a very common way for other dimensional beings to communicate with you. Loved ones like to use that a lot. Your guides, angels really like to use numbers quite a bit. So again, it's very personal to you. And just because you see a certain number doesn't mean it means the same thing to another person. It could change depending on who's seeing it. So pay attention to how often it comes up and when it comes up, because that can indicate a lot what it means.
All right. And then I think those are the questions I have for clairvoyance. I guess we can go into clairsentience. That's a big one. I feel like a lot of empathic people have.
Yes. So if you're an empath, you're likely, to me, it falls into the same category. To me, being an empath is being a clairsentient person. I'm not even sure if you could really separate the two, because inherently a clairsentient person is feeling. You can almost call them a super feeler. They're feeling things all the time. They could feel energy from objects and places, rooms, groups of people, individuals. They can even sense that something just happened before they came in and what might have happened. They can sense illnesses in some cases. And the thing with this is you feel it in your own body. So you could be talking to someone who's very ill and they haven't told you what they have, but you feel it in your body like you have it. And that can be very uncomfortable. And a lot of times you could even think that you have illnesses because you're picking up on all these energies from other people and things like that. And they're manifesting as maybe sometimes pain and discomfort in your own body. And then you get checked out, and they're like, sorry, we can't find anything. So clairsentience is one of those annoying ones sometimes because you're picking up so much and you're feeling it. So it feels so physical that it makes you feel like something's wrong with you sometimes. So when you know that you're clairsentient, then you can start to create healthy boundaries between you and, wherever you're at or whoever you're with. People might want to have a tendency to like dump on you and tell you like, oh my God, this happened today and like fix it for me. And I just feel like you always understand. And you're like, whoa, like, okay, need to put a boundary because everyone's always doing this, you know? But yeah, you can tell so much about any, like you could feel like clairsentience is such a deep psychic ability that you could get a lot of information by using that one alone.
Or even, for example, you get tingles and you know that's a yes when you're giving a reading.
So for me, you know, I feel when I'm bringing it through a spirit or some sort of being in a reading, I wait for the tingle. That's how they let me know they're here fully. It's like this distinctive, like very staticky electric tingle going down my spine and usually across my shoulders, top here. And I'm like, woo, you know, and I'm like, okay, they're here. And then they will use a similar feeling, but sometimes put it over my whole body when they're excited about something or when they're reinforcing like a yes, you know, or trying to like tell me that something's really important. So over time, I've learned what these different types of tingles mean. Also, I can feel how they died in my body, which can be a little uncomfortable. They give me like a little toned down version of it, but I could feel where in my body, like something went wrong in theirs, and how they passed away and stuff like that.
And then claircognizance. This one is a bit tricky.
Trang is claircognizant, and it's funny because I know this is her favorite because she's been learning herself about how her own claircognizant abilities. And this is like the brainy one. This is like the person who can just absorb so much information and also just know stuff without any input. Like they're like, somehow I just know how to do this, but I can't really tell you why. And they might have like a million talents because it's so easy for them to learn a new one because they already kind of just like absorb information from the collective consciousness. And then it's almost like in the futuristic movies where like the robot is like downloading a new software program. They're like, okay, now I know karate. It's kind of like that. And so they might be the people that have a lot of creative ideas, are the ones like problem solving, inventing, innovating. They always have the next idea and the next idea, and they may have trouble settling down a bit. And also a funny one is because you kind of know what someone's going to say a lot of times, you might cut them off a lot in a conversation. So that's a hard one to like bring it back and just have to hold it in, and it's painful, but that is a very common sign, you know. And I feel a lot of neurodivergent people have claircognizance, and that's another reason why they're, I want to do this, I want to try this, and they're kind of savant-like in some areas. So yeah, claircognizance, I'd say is just this sense of knowing, and it doesn't have to be about information like that you're using practically. It can also be like, I just know there was a murder here in this spot right here, or I just know that person is a bad person. I just know there's just something, and I don't have anything to back it up. I don't have any, you know, maybe you may not have any visions or anything else. You just know it. And it might be hard to convince people because they're like, wow, you're so arrogant. Like you just know, wow. So I should just trust you. Like, what a jerk. But really it's just like, so you learn how to adapt that. You learn how to be more tactful. And that's part of your psychic development, is starting to be able to use these in a more practical way.
It's so funny because I see a couple people on Zoom smiling and nodding. I'm like, oh, I think they understand. They get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's another thing is when you guys have, you might wake up to the solution to a problem you've been thinking about for a long time. That's something that I get. Or even when I get solutions to ideas or problems when I'm washing the dishes or brushing my teeth. So those are, I thought it was just a personality thing, like, oh, I'm just random. But turns out Maria was teaching me, she's like, no, that's a gift. I was like, oh, okay. You know, I don't get the gut feeling that everyone does where they're like, oh, there's that pit in my stomach feeling. It's just more like I don't know. I just know. And people are like, why? There's no reason. I was like, I don't know. I just know. So if you say that's a gift. It's a weird gift. It's not really in your face type of thing, but so that's that. And then the next gift is Clairaudience. Now this one's a bit tricky because, you know, this is about hearing voices and people are like, well, that might be schizophrenia. Again, we say check with the doctor first, but there is a great line. You know, you can be both, can't you?
That's the really tricky thing is honestly, I think just about every psychic person I've met that's a practitioner or is, just knows they have abilities has some sort of mental illness. A lot of times it could be depression, anxiety. It could even be neurodivergence. Sometimes people have schizophrenia, but I know that it's tougher for people who have been diagnosed with schizophrenia because sometimes they just can't go there. They can't entertain any of this because it could be very destructive to their life, because they already have a hard time understanding what is there and what is produced by their brain. And so in those cases, I would not necessarily say like you have to develop your psychic gifts, if that's something that's very difficult for you. But then there are other cases where, they were diagnosed a long time ago when they didn't have such a good idea of what schizophrenia actually meant, and people have been misdiagnosed. But also, I noticed that people who have different brains, they're just able sometimes to see things. They see the world differently. And unfortunately, our society sometimes labels us and medicates us for being different. And it's not always bad. It just could be that we're having trouble functioning in this kind of society that does not understand that. Now, look, I take depression medication. I take medication for sleep. Like I've been for years, and it helps me. And I'm a huge advocate for mental health therapy, and I go to trauma therapy, and I do all the things I need to do. So I'm not big on people avoiding that when they're trying to do this. I feel they have to go hand in hand. Like getting therapy and doing shadow work and all that is a massive part of having a healthy understanding of your psychic abilities and yourself as a human being.
On TikTok, Brammy002 asked, can you clarify what neurodivergent is?
Yeah, being a neurodivergent person means that your brain is maybe structured a little bit different than the average brain, and how that manifests in ways that we understand are, someone who might be autistic, or someone who might be ADHD, or someone who might have another learning difference like dyslexia or any other kind of learning issue. For those of you who are just joining on live, we're having a psychic abilities event. So we're discussing different psychic abilities and how they work. So that's in case you're wondering. I see people saying, what is this? What's going on? So basically, yeah, that's what neurodivergent is. And it's just your brain is just different. It works differently. You see the world differently. But a lot of times it's classified as a disability because it makes it harder to, work within a certain societal structure,
And Cheyenne asked, I hope you said that name right, can you explain what shadow work is?
Yes, it's such a good question. I will be doing a more in-depth video, probably series on this soon. So shadow work first came about, I believe, from Carl Jung, who was a psychologist. And he talks about shadow work in a psychological standpoint, where you're going back in time and you're kind of revealing traumas and deep rooted issues. I feel like it's in a timeline psychologically. I have to go back and refresh on that version of it. In the metaphysical world, it's kind of similar, but it's a term to describe going deep within yourself and starting to heal the inner child, old traumas, old wounds, patterning, paradigms that have been forced on you that like by your parents or society. You're kind of unraveling the person that you were made into, not necessarily the person you naturally are. And that's why that's such a powerful experience, is because when you're developing your psychic abilities, it can just blow open your consciousness, and it opens you up to so many things, and it can be very disorienting, and it starts to reveal things that you didn't see before. So that's why I always say, like, doing shadow work as soon as possible in this journey is really important, because it makes it more functional as you open up. It makes it easier to process, and you will be less likely to probably be using a mystical world as an escape mechanism. Like I see practitioners all the time who have not done shadow work. They're completely ungrounded, and they are just, their lives are a complete mess. And it's like they won't go in, and they're sitting here giving skewed things and skewed readings to other people because they're not balanced. They're coming from a place of deep suppression of their darker side, which needs to be seen. We all have our dark side, and there's nothing bad about it. It's just healthy to unravel that. So that's key. And if you don't unravel it sooner, it will become more and more difficult later on. It will become more intrusive because your vibration is going to start to want to go up, and it's going to force all that stuff out. And sometimes it can come out as like the dark night of the soul, which is like when everything just comes crashing down on you and your whole identity is just completely ripped apart. And that can feel very difficult. So I say, you know what, you might as well start and just do it a little bit as you go instead of waiting for the dark night of the soul to just annihilate you.
Okay.
As I laugh about it.
Let's go into, all right. So clairaudience. I was like, what did I originally ask you? So clairaudience, besides voices, sometimes what are other sounds or things that people can hear?
So when you're clairaudient, you can hear pitches. So that's actually one of the first ways people realize that they are clairaudient is they'll start to hear frequencies. And sometimes it might be a lower hum. Sometimes it might be kind of mid-range. Sometimes it's like super high pitched and you're like, ooh. Sometimes your sound might just go out in one ear completely. It just feels like someone smacked you on the side of the head. And it's like, whoa, I can't hear anything. That's different ways that you're perceiving your sensory system is experiencing an energy nearby you. And so I notice angels and higher dimensional beings usually have a very high pitch where it's like, ooh. And then humans I notice they're kind of fall in the middle a lot of times. And then like a negative human or a negative dimensional being starts to go lower, like, ooh, it's more of a low hum. So pay attention to what kind of hums you're getting, what kind of pitches you're getting. And also you can hear other phenomenon as well, not just ringing or your sound going out. You can also hear voices. You can hear music suddenly in your head, just do, or you can hear someone say something suddenly, or you're like, what? I even feel like exploding head syndrome, which is like when you're just like relaxing a lot of times when you're going to bed and all of a sudden you hear like a loud crash or loud bang. I do feel like that is also clairaudience. So yeah, it could be literally anything you can hear in your mind's ear. So it doesn't have to be with your physical ears. Your inner voice, it could be suddenly a voice you don't recognize saying something to you. But something really important I want everyone to know is that your guidance team, beings of the light who want to help you will never, ever, ever tell you something bad. They will never hurt you. They will never put your life in danger or tell you to do something dangerous. They will never do that. And I've even seen some people on here saying that like Archangel Michael told them to put their hand in a flame. And I'm like, that's not Archangel Michael. Sorry. That's just not. And I was just like cringing. I was like, that's definitely not him. I'm so sorry. So that's just a good way. It's just too high vibrational. That frequency of that type of thing, it just does not match the angelic vibration, for example. So just use discernment on what's in your head. Over time, you'll start to develop a kind of system and start to understand what's going on. But music is another big one that starts coming up early on in your development.
And Taylor asks, does ear pressure fall under clairaudience?
Oh, that's a good one. I do believe it can affect ear pressure. If you don't have any underlying sinus issues, or if you're not like, going to different elevations in that time, yes, it can. It's again, like if something's really close to you, it can kind of create the feeling of fullness in your ear. So yeah, I would classify that as clairaudience as well.
Awesome. There's some people on TikTok commenting, I hear loud bangs all the time when going to sleep.
Yep.
And I've heard my name be called and nobody is around. So yeah, and my ears ring a lot. Yeah, I remember throughout my life, I thought I kept losing. I was having hearing loss all my life. Now I know better.
I know it's kind of creepy at first, for sure.
I guess the next gift is Claire. What's that one? The one that I was Alliance? Smelling things.
Oh, that is Clairalience.
Yes. All right. And what can people expect with that when they have that?
So Clairalience is a really fun one. Basically, it is the psychic smelling, and it's not always it's not really with your physical nose. It's just like with clairvoyance, can be your physical eyes, but a lot of times it's the mind's eye. This is like the mind's nose. And I'll give you a good example. Someone who can like go in the grocery store and they're looking at ingredients they've never used. And they're like, I just know how that's going to smell when I cook it. Like, I just know. Like, or I just know what that smells like. I don't even have to cut it open and take a whiff. Like, or you might smell like grandma's perfume one day, like randomly, and you're like, whoa, like, where did that come from? Is that grandma? Is that you? Or like you might smell, a lot of people smell cigarette smoke after a loved one who used to smoke died, or cigar smoke. You may also smell sometimes like a body odor. Like I've heard of this where a spirit had body odor and that was like one of their signatures. And like, you're like, oh, that's Uncle Fred's BO again. Like, good to see you. I could see you still haven't handled that. So it's like, or you might smell chemicals that aren't there. Let's say like you're at an Airbnb and like, oh, look at this cute little Airbnb, and you smell fire that's not there. And then you find out that, 100 years ago, there was a massive fire there, and there's no way you could have smelled that. So people who have Clairalience can be very good cooks. They could be very good with aromas, aromatherapies, things like that. They just know what to put together. Candle making, like all that stuff. They're just naturals at it. And they can even like smell something and tell how much more of an ingredient to put, for example. It's just like no one had to train them to do that. But yes, a lot of times people start to notice this after someone's passed away, that they knew there was a certain scent associated with them, and then they smell it.
Ash asks, can you smell sickness in other people?
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. Now, here's the crazy thing about this. You can smell abstract things like color, sickness, pregnancy, excitement, fear, lies. Like literally you can apply Clairalience psychic smelling to literally anything. So you could smell talent in someone. You could like smell a particular talent. You could smell a thought. You're like, I know it's gonna sound hilarious, but you're like, I smell that they're lying. They're trying to lie right now. I smell it. And it's different for everyone. Not everyone will be attuned to it in that way, but you can literally psychically smell like anything.
Yeah, I remember one of our followers was like saying,
lies.
Someone said, I smell pregnancy. It's just like, I just know it was pregnancy. And I was like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a Claircognizance paired with Clairalience. She's using her Claircognizance to understand what her other psychic sense was bringing in.
Yeah, people are writing they smell flowers when there's not flowers anywhere.
Some people say angels smell like roses, or bring in roses. It's interesting. Sometimes people smell incense. There's certain beings that are associated with the smell of incense, for example. And let's see here.
Even, Rachel, she wrote, she was back at Clairaudience. I hear crazy stuff when I am falling asleep. Oh.
A lot of times that's when it happens, because your consciousness, as soon as you get into bed and get into a relaxed state, same with meditation, your consciousness is starting to go into the astral realm. It's starting to shift. So sometimes and it's kind of nuts to think about it, but imagine there's like a party up here in the like 5th, 6th dimension, and like you're in the 3rd dimension, and now you're rising up and you're hearing like you're on an elevator. How sometimes you can hear chatter like from the different floors as you're going up. It's like that. So as you're elevating, going through different dimensions into the astral, you can get like clips of what's going on, up there, because it's all telepathic. So you can hear things, see things, stuff like that.
Great. Now I feel like it's partner, or like they're like brother sister psychic abilities. Clairgustance, which is the psychic gift of tasting.
Yeah, this is another one where if you have Clairgustance, you're probably an amazing cook. And also you're probably very particular about your food, because you're such a super taster that like you can taste if it's like
super taster.
Fresh. Yeah, like you're like, no, this is not. I can tell this has been sitting in a freezer. Like everyone's like, what? It tastes good to me. You're like, no, this has been sitting in a freezer for a year, and I can taste that. So it's like extremely highly tuned, and you might be very particular about your flavors, and you could literally taste all kinds of things, just like Clairalience, where you can psychically smell everything. Again, you can taste pregnancy. I've heard mediums say they can taste cancer, like because the drugs have a metallic taste, create a metallic taste in the patient's mouth, apparently. So some people who are psychic say, I know someone has gone, had died from cancer or whatever, because I taste the metallic taste in my mouth. You could taste, again, fear, you could taste joy, you could taste color. And to some people, they may have been diagnosed or told that they have synesthesia, which is basically your sensory senses mixing stuff up. So people who can taste music, or they can feel color. Color gives them feelings. They can, see sound. That, to me, those are psychic abilities. That are just being classified in the best way that modern science can identify right now. So it's like that. So you could taste pretty much anything. And for example, one time I was in a reading, and a spirit was trying to give me this famous dish that she used to make at all the family events. And so she started giving me each ingredient. So I was like, oh, there's a little bit of onion. Oh, there's a little bit of mustard. Oh, there's a little bit of something creamy. And she was giving me all these flavors, and I can like taste it. I was like, oh, that's really delicious. Like, wow. And then I told that to my client, and she's like, oh yeah, it's this dish. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's what it tastes like. So they can give me all that kind of information. So a lot of times I personally believe that Clairalience and Clairgustance probably commonly go together as like a unit. But I suppose it's possible to have them separated.
Awesome. Let me get to some questions here in Zoom. Shelby asks, are there any books I can read to pursue my abilities?
Ooh, there's a lot of books out there. Let me think.
I could always shoot an email to everyone afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
I might have to look on my bookcase because I'm really bad at remembering the names of books. But I do have some right here that I can recommend for divination tools. But yeah, I'll have to get back to you and look at my little stash.
Awesome. And let's see here. Monica asks, is journaling the only way to do shadow work?
It's a really helpful tool, but I wouldn't say you have to. Maybe someone doesn't like journaling, but instead they do like some sort of artwork every day, where they have a piece that they're working on that helps them translate what they're feeling, what they're going through. Maybe that's how they journal. Something to track the experience would be helpful, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's necessary, but I would highly recommend it. Maybe if you're a creative person, you have some sort of creative outlet that helps you process the stuff along the way, and you can look back and see it. Like my brother, for example, is a musician and a composer, and he has all these compositions and he can tell me exactly like what that song meant to him at that time, why he did it that way, so it tells a whole story of his evolution as a person. So that's, for example, his journal, as he moved through and trying to understand himself better. So it can really be anything. If you want to do a video diary, or if you want to do little audio clips, just quickly saying what's going on that day. Maybe instead you join a group of people who are psychic and they're all trying to work on themselves, and you share it with them instead of writing it down. Do what works best for you, but track it in some way, even if it's abstract. That way you can understand the patterns in your process.
Cheyenne asked, do your services work on shadow work? So I guess, are there any, Reiki or anything that we offer?
Yeah, Reiki can help, especially if someone's in the middle of shadow work, because really painful emotions might come up. And Reiki is an energy healing technique that Trang and I are both practitioners in. And it can soothe, it can rebalance, it can pull all that stuff that got ripped from the inside out and now it's hanging out outside in your energy field. We can smooth all that over, remove it and stuff like that, or put things back where they need to go. Even kind of help it a little, like maybe things are starting to go in a direction, like putting more energy there so that it can continue to blossom. So you can do other modalities, any kind of really healing modality, sound therapy, breath work. By the way, if you want good breath work resources, Trang has some good ones to recommend, I'm sure. Any kind of exercise, or, if you're doing Tai Chi or any kind of martial arts, anything to get the energy moving in the body is really good to do during shadow work. If you like to swim, getting in the water and swimming around, or taking a healing bath, taking hikes, you just have to kind of keep giving your body a chance to like express all that stuff out, and re kind of program. So, I would recommend that. Someone asked on here, is it possible on TikTok? Is it catacult? Is it possible to have several psychic abilities? Absolutely. In fact, I feel like that's most common to have at least a couple. If you're a psychic person, you probably have your primary one, secondary, and even a tertiary third, one. And as you work on them, even if you're working, let's say your superpower is clairvoyance, but you also notice you're a bit clairsentient and claircognizant is like the one that's the third tier. The more you work on your clairvoyance, it's going to start creating more psychic awareness in all your abilities. And then suddenly a new one like Clairalience might pop up and you're like, whoa, that wasn't there before, because now you're saying, yes, I'm open to honing my natural gifts. And so therefore you might eventually develop all of them potentially.
And Monica, another Monica here, we have two Monicas, asks, what's up with the waking up between 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. all the time? I'm so tired.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So there's a lot of different explanations for this. I know scientifically there is an explanation about like sleep phases, but personally for me, I feel like it could all go together. Like it could all be a package. So sure, maybe your sleep phase is changing at that 3 o'clock marker naturally, and we can become aware because it's changing, it could potentially almost like jolt us into awareness again, but it takes time for us to come out of the astral. So even though your body's waking up, you might still be able to see, hear, sense stuff from the astral as you're going back down the elevator, back fully into your body. So, I also do think energy changes according to the time of day. I feel sometimes during certain parts of the day, the veil between this world and others is thinner. Some people I've heard a lot of practitioners over the years, and this is kind of an old school kind of idea that like the spirit world, their daytime, is your nighttime. Like I've heard that, but they don't really use time. I mean, I guess, yeah, contextually, like we could experience it that way, but I really do think it's about our consciousness coming back into our body after being awoken by something, because maybe the veil's thinner. I do think that time is energetically special, and I think our ancestors knew that in some way. It's probably, some people probably will do rituals around that time and stuff. So I would encourage everyone to tune in and see what that means to you too, because it could mean something a little different for everyone.
It asks, whenever I sit down or stop moving, I feel waves of energy pulsating in my torso. Sounds like clairsentience. And when I get ready to sleep, my place makes cracking sounds and the like beings are entering. What do you think of this?
So yeah, there's, again, like, because we are more open when we're asleep, because our consciousness is now getting out of our conscious, like everyday survival mode, we're shifting into a higher level of consciousness into other dimensions. Sometimes other beings will be more like, oh, this is the time that they're going to notice me more. So even guides, other beings that work with you, other beings that are curious about you, might be kind of waiting for that time so that they can say, hey, look, I'm here, like, notice me, because they know that you're going to be more perceptive. It's really hard to get our attention nowadays, like from a spirit's perspective. It must be so frustrating because we're so distracted, like 24/7. So as soon as we're meditating or getting ready to go to sleep, all of a sudden we have no distractions. And so all of our senses become heightened anyway, physically. So you might notice all kinds of knocking and, stuff like that as they're trying to get your attention. And as far as the feeling in your body, yes, that is a clairsentient feeling. That actually sounds like almost like a solar plexus, like pulsating, the solar plexus area of the body, chakra of the body, kind of pulsating. And you can become aware of these. And as you rest, your chakras can change their openness or closedness depending on your state of being. So you might be sensing that change. There also could be beings that are working with you in a positive way, and they might be channeling energy to heal you at night. That can happen too, and you can feel that just like you would during a healing session. You might have these sensations in your chakras in your body. And thanks for all the shelf compliments, guys, on TikTok.
Oh yeah, I saw someone said your shelves are adorable.
I'm always adjusting them. Thank you.
Here. Great. Oh, Rachel asks, can hypnosis help with spiritual awakenings?
I do think so. And a big way, here's some big ways that people use hypnosis in a metaphysical way. One, to get to the root of fear, for example. So if you're like, I was traumatized as a kid, I was a very psychic kid, and my parents told me that the devil was going to eat me if I kept using, my abilities. So then I got really scared. And now every time I try to use them, I have a panic attack. So you can use hypnosis to go back, and even in a inner child work way, go back to that child and rehypnotize and reprogram a pattern in the past. And it is kind of like a form of time travel energetically, and reprogramming that and resetting that. So that way you're removing a block. Just like for people that are like, oh, I stopped smoking because of hypnosis, you're removing a block or a behavior. Another way it can help with spiritual awakening, hypnosis can help with spiritual awakening, is when it's used to do a past life regression. I'm not a past life regressionist at this time. I hope to be one day. But someone who's trained in past life regressions basically uses hypnosis to put you in a certain state of relaxation where you can now access past life memories that are maybe still affecting you to this day. So you're not going to have like every single past life. That would take like 10 years for everything to come out. It's ones that are still important in this life. And there is a book called, it's a really good book, and I would like to recommend it to everyone. I will have Trang send it out. It was written by, I believe, a psychiatrist or psychologist who discovered past life regression accidentally when doing this kind of hypnosis for trauma, to regress, do in this life regressions basically. And then these phenomenon, Brian Weiss, I believe that's him, Rachel. What is it? Past lives, future, something, past lives, future healing, or something like that. I'll let you know what it is, because I have it on audiobook. But that book's really cool, and it really kind of just explains how past life regressions happen and how they can be very healing.
I have a question here. Brittany Marie 883 earlier today asked, I have several experiences with spirits the last few years. Why now?
Sorry, real quick. The books will, Trang's going to send out, if you sign up for our newsletter, we'll have your email in our system. If you go to our website and sign up for our newsletter, then Trang can send out to everyone on the list resources, a resources list. Right, Trang? Is that how it works for?
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason why you might suddenly be able to suddenly have these spirit encounters, like, is basically a spiritual awakening starts to happen. And you could have always been psychic, but just, life did not allow for that kind of thinking or that kind of flexibility or attention to that type of softer side of yourself, more subtle side. And because the energy of the earth the vibration of the earth is shifting to a higher vibration, some people are calling it like 5D consciousness, ascension, whatever, the Great Awakening. We all are being forced to go up too. And it can really just blow open your abilities or your awareness all of a sudden. If you weren't trying to, and if you're meant to use your abilities, especially, it can open up in you. It's kind of a spontaneous combustion of abilities happening. And that's not uncommon for it to just suddenly come up full blast when you're in like 30s, 40s. For me, I always had psychic abilities and was aware of them. But when I was like around 18, 19, 20, that's when it just went nuts. And I went through this, that was the beginning of this very grand, large spiritual awakening.
May Rastirine on TikTok asks, what is the difference between your own thoughts and the thoughts of spirit?
Ooh, great question. So thoughts that come from spirit can be very random. So you might be like walking down the street and suddenly you hear someone say your name and you're like, what? Like there was no context for that. There's no one there who knows you. There's no reason why you would be saying your own name in your head like that. Or suddenly you're like, do, and then bam, a song starts playing in your head over and over and over. And you're like, or part of a song. You're like, okay, I wasn't thinking about the song. Why is this in my head? Also, just like a whole sentence could pop up or a word. So, or you could hear a word. So, or some sort of strange sound or a pop or crack or something like that. And it's, again, out of context. There's no reason why that should necessarily be popping into your head. It almost feels like someone planted it in there. And that goes for all these psychic abilities. When it's just a sudden like, ooh, what is that? Where did that come from? That's a good indication that it's from spirit.
Lisa asks, how do you know when you're actually awakened?
Oh, that's a good question. And awakening can take years, guys. Mine took about like 10 years. And I think I'm still going in some ways. And, you're always going to continue to awaken in different ways. But the main like spirit crux, spiritual awakening can take years. So when you're at a pretty, let's say, advanced part of your awakening, you might just have this really high level of integration with what you've been through in life, like understanding it in a new way, seeing yourself as a continuum instead of just, I am this person in this life and that's it. You're seeing yourself as a soul that's on a continuum of never ending time, and that anything's possible. And you might see people differently, people you don't agree with. You might be like, oh, that these people used to really upset me, but now I understand that that's not how they are on a soul level. They're just here expressing themselves like that for a while, and they're teaching us something. Like, you start to be less aggravated by everything because you understand that there's a much deeper essence to all this stuff. Also, like, you might have a greater sense of peace in your life because you may not be overcompensating like you used to. You may not be constantly watching your back like you used to. You might have that feeling of security that comes, again, knowing that like death isn't scary and there's no hell and, like all these other types of things that you learn along the way. And another thing that I notice with people who've been awakened for a while, is that they also may have changed their career and their whole life trajectory completely to the point where they're like, I can't believe I used to work at that job. Like, that was just not me. And now they're doing something that really fulfills them. You're basically removing all these barriers that were put on you your whole life by other people. And you're discovering the essence truly of who you are. So you might people suddenly see them change genders even after a spiritual awakening, change identities. They might dress different. They might just have different friends. They might respond completely different to everything. And their friends are like, okay, what's going on? But that's because they're going more into their soul history and expressing that as opposed to just, everything that has been put on them in this life. There's a lot more to that, but I could go on forever.
So with these psychic abilities, Ash asks, how do you use tarot or other tools through your gifts?
Great question. Sorry, let me take a sip. So when you're first learning about how to like hone your psychic abilities, I highly recommend using divination tools because they can help with self-doubt. When you're working with something outside of your body and your mind and you're seeing it kind of independently working, that can be very validating. And it can also teach you about different types of energies and systems and symbolisms. So for example, when you're working with like a classic tarot deck or any kind of oracle card, tarot card, whatever, there are so many aspects to this that can help you in your psychic practice. First of all, let's say the imagery and all the depth of this imagery. Every single thing in this card is significant, but also the numbers on the top. So it teaches you about numerology. So when you see these numbers showing up all the time in your life, you're going to start to understand them better. It teaches you how to let go and just like let things transpire. So when you're shuffling and you're pulling your cards, now it's outside of you. And, it teaches you how to break down expectations, because you might see something like if you're doing daily card pulls, for example, and journaling with them, you might see a card that shocks you come out and it challenges you. You're like, man, why do I keep getting the death card, man? Like, man, that's messed up. But then and you're like, it's following me everywhere. The death card just keeps showing up everywhere. Like, is something going to happen to me? And it's like, no, it's teaching you how to suspend your judgment. It's teaching you how to see beyond the obvious. It's teaching you how to release your fear and your expectations and to see things differently. So basically, using divination tools can be a beautiful way to connect with spirit. And, they know, oh, they're using this tool today. We're going to communicate with them through this. And over time, you might notice you may not really want to use tools anymore because you trust yourself so much. that you don't really need to use tools as much. But some great introductory tools to start using would be tarot and oracle cards, pendulums. And for those of you who've never seen a pendulum, they sometimes look like this. This is a copper one. You can also use, there's like, oh God, there's so many. I'm blanking now though. Some people do like rune casting, and all kinds of other stuff. I could go on. There's probably a lot to cover.
Let's see, I'm just seeing if there's any comments. Okay, I've been dying to announce this because all the questions that people have been asking, I'm like, oh, here we go. Okay, so Maria and I have been kind of quiet for the past maybe 2 months because we've been working many hours on, I gotta do the screen share. Let's see if I do this right.
So those of you on TikTok, we are about to announce something.
Okay, so we have finished and launched our Develop Your Psychic Abilities course. So for those on TikTok or Instagram, again, you can find out what psychic abilities you have by clicking on the link in bio where it says Psychic Quiz. So in these courses, you're going to learn how to tap into your abilities, even though if you're just like, oh, I don't know, they've been repressed. How do I do this? What if I fail? I'm a newbie. You know, we're going to help you with that, and also connecting with, you know, your spirit guides. And a really important thing to us is the ethics and professionalism, you know, of using the gifts, because there are moments where you're going to be in a sticky situation where you say, do I tell this person? Like the spirit is, you know, nudging me to tell this person something, but is this the right time and place to do it? You know, just because you know it doesn't always necessarily mean you should say it. So we'll kind of help you navigate there as well. And then again, if you're new or you've just been like, I haven't even touched my gifts in 10 million years, if you're that old, then, you know, we'll help you with that as well. And just, again, when you start off, a lot of times, you know, you see other people like Maria being like, man, she makes it look easy. Like, I can't get this. I don't see anything. I don't get anything. We'll also help you get through that as well. And also, again, like controlling and protecting yourself as you go through these practices. And then also the perks, well, actually it's like perks/content. In the package course, we have over 6 hours of video content. We have these exercise activities that we created. So you can, it gives a way for you to practice on people. And then our online community, oh yes, we just have launched a Discord community as well. So if you guys don't know what Discord is, if you're familiar with like Slack, AIM, instant messaging, it's kind of like a channel like that, a Happy Healing Shop channel where you can be like, hey, yo, what up, people, you know, and just kind of chat away in there as well. And of course, lifetime access. So if we update anything in the course, you will still get it. You don't have to pay extra and things like that. Okay, this is where the course price is. So we're selling them individually as a bundle as well. So you can go to the quiz and be like, when you score in the quiz, you can see like, oh, I'm Claircognizance, or maybe, oh, I have Claircognizance there twice. I need to fix that. Anyways, or like, ooh, Clairaudience. So I maybe want to buy those 2 courses because those are the gifts I have. But of course, there's always the bundle package deal. And of course, that's always going to be the better price. So normally for all 6 abilities, it would be $299.95. But we decided to give a discount at $239.95. And this is where I feel like an infomercial. But wait, there's more. So we're actually having a Black Friday deal. And with our 15% promo code, and yes, I decided to choose eyeball as a promo code. That's right, EYEBALL. And so it goes, as you can see, all the way from $299 to pretty much $203. So you're saving like almost $100 if you buy the package course with the promo code. And you can use it now until Sunday, November 29, which is that end of Black Friday weekend. So, and you can also use that promo code eyeball on the individual psychic courses as well. And to sign up, for those on Instagram, TikTok, just go to our link in bio and click on courses. If everyone else, you can check out our official website, thehappyhealingshop.com/courses. So I want to ask a couple questions to you, Maria, because I feel like there's people would have questions on this. So who is this course for?
Right, real quick before I answer that one, because people are asking on TikTok. So you can take this quiz first. It's a free quiz, link in my TikTok bio. I believe it's like near the top, like Psychic Abilities quiz. It's up there. So who is this course for? Well, it's for anyone who's been wanting to learn more about psychic abilities, learn about their own psychic abilities. You don't have to want to be a professional. You just want to, it's just knowing more. So you could be at any level. You could have just figured out what psychic abilities are, period. You can be someone who's suspected you have psychic abilities and now you're feeling drawn to start to develop them. But also, you could be someone who does want to go into professional practice and you've kind of just been, on your own, honing and reading all these books, and you want maybe something cohesive to kind of take you through each one so that you can hone them to a place where you're feeling more confident to be a practitioner, any kind of metaphysical practitioner. And also it could be for people who just want to really have a solid private psychic practice that maybe no one knows you do this. And this is something that you want to do for you, just to be able to have this knowledge and to feel like you don't have to worry about what's going on with you anymore, that you actually know what's going on.
And so someone might ask, what if I wasn't born with psychic gifts?
This is the other cool thing that I love to tell people. If you were not born, first of all, everyone baseline has some sort of intuition. That is a psychic gift. That is our innate human psychic ability that helps us survive and to know who to trust and to protect us, really. And so these other psychic abilities we've talked about are more evolved versions of that, basically, and they manifest through our different senses. So anyone can develop a psychic gift if they didn't know it was there. It's just about tuning in and setting the intention. And you can ask your guides and your angels and your loved ones and ancestors to help you with this. You could just say, I really want to hone new psychic gifts. I am now opening up to that and I want to experience that. Guide me to where I need to go. So, you can have this class and you can keep it with you, and whenever you want to revisit it and, okay, now I'm ready to learn this ability and this one. And the more you hone or are open to the idea of psychic gifts, the more other gifts are going to continue to open up. So eventually it's not crazy that you would have all of them. Like, I use all psychic gifts. I have all of them, but I wasn't aware of all of them at first. So it's absolutely possible for anyone to develop psychic gifts with practice and intention.
And this one I saw in a comment on your TikTok. What if I fail?
Oh yeah, this one made me sad because I was like, you can't fail this one. I'm sorry. I know you want to, but you can't. It's really not that kind of class. It's a self-study course and there's no grading or anything, but we provide structure and journal entries and all that stuff and exercises to practice and videos. But you can't fail it. And you have this class in your possession, so you can revisit it as many times as you need. If you didn't really, if you fell asleep during one section, you can go back and rewatch it as many times as you need. So it's impossible to fail it. It's just there to help you in your development.
And finally, other people seem more naturally gifted and see spirits like Maria, while I don't as much. Is the course still for me?
Yeah. So that's the other thing too, is that I see a lot of people that I'm like, wait, but you're psychic too, but they just don't realize it because they think all this weird stuff is normal and that everyone experiences it. So they may not even realize that they actually are capable. But it's really important for everyone not to compare themselves to other people's abilities, especially if it's a professional who's been working at it a long time. Guys, I used to not think I could ever be a medium because I fundamentally misunderstood what mediumship was. I knew I was psychic, but I just was like, oh, I don't know. Cause I thought you had to like literally see dead people with your eyes, like all the time. I didn't know you could see them in your mind's eye. So that fundamentally changed everything for me. So a lot of it is just education. Like, you're going to realize like how much more you really do have when you know what to look for. So try not to compare yourself to others. Everyone has a different level of development. And those of us who are professionals are still learning every day. And there's still so much more development I want to do in myself, even though I'm a professional now.
Yeah. And I also see comments. Let me stop the screen share. How do I do this? Okay. And let's turn my video back on. All right. And I used to think I wasn't psychic because I was comparing myself to Maria, who sees things, just has all 6 abilities, right? And it wasn't until we started creating this that I was like, oh, I do have gifts. I just don't see dead people, So, please don't think that, some people are like, I wish I had that gift. Please don't think that you're not gifted at all, because that's a big misconception. Like intuition and these abilities, they come in all shapes and sizes, and they're really subtle too. That's another thing I noticed. It's not like someone saying like, this is the answer. That would make life easy though.
I know. I mean, yeah, it's such a big variance. Training someone in TikTok just asked like, sorry, I missed it. When is the cut? Like, is there a cutoff for this?
Oh yeah. No, you can sign up now. There is a cutoff for the coupon, the discount code eyeball. That one, the cutoff is November 29. So if you want a good deal, buy soon, pretty much. But you can buy this it's available like whenever. You can buy this next year or whatever. And then Clara asks, are you able to take the course at your own pace? Yep, you can. It's it looked like you're about to say something.
And well, I was gonna say, Trang, did we make this a drip style course? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, so there'll be lessons that are kind of like revealed each day instead of like all at one day, so you're not overwhelmed. So
someone just asked if there's a limited time you can access the program once you join. This course, they should, in my understanding, is the way we structure it, they always have access once they buy it, right?
Mm-hmm. Lifetime access. You can access it now, next year.
So whenever you buy the course, whether it's now or in the future, you can still access this class. You still have access to this class permanently. So don't worry about losing it if you don't start it in time.
Let's see it. Let me read this long question. Okay. You know it. Asks, hey, how do you tell the difference between sensing future danger and just a random non-factual paranoia?
So I noticed that like non-factual paranoia is a good way to put it, is rooted in a trauma that you remember. So for example, maybe you had a bad experience in a dark alley, and every time you go in a dark alley, you're like, oh, I hope this doesn't happen again. But if you're just like in the daytime going to the grocery store and everything's fine, there's no triggers that you have psychologically that are making you afraid of going to the grocery store. And suddenly you're like, ooh, I have a gut feeling something's going to happen. I'm going to go back to my car. And then, that's a different experience. It's like for, I'm going to talk about 9/11 for a second, because this is a prime example. Some people who would never, ever miss work woke up that day and were like, I don't know why, but I feel like I shouldn't go in today. I don't feel well, or something's giving me a bad feeling. And these are not people who are so intuitive and tuned into their own gifts. Like they were, financial people, and they didn't have that kind of experience normally. And they had this phenomenon where a lot of people just stayed home and they didn't really know why, but they just knew they shouldn't go in. That's a classic example of it's just kind of abnormal, or if you're like, this happens a lot with ladies, like, you might be in a bar and your friend's like, oh, look at that cute person. And they're like, you should go talk to them. You're like, I don't know, something just doesn't feel right. But like, oh, they're so nice. Look at their nice smile. And they might try to tell you to like, don't trust your feelings. You're being paranoid. Like, trust that. Definitely trust that, because your senses will tell you what's underneath the mask always. And so I tell people, please do trust that. It's better to come across a little paranoid than to not listen to your gifts. Now, again, like if you have a fear of airplanes, and you've always had a fear of airplanes since you could remember, and you're about to get on an airplane, you have a bad feeling, but you always have a bad feeling when you get on an airplane, like that's different, like it's rooted in a fear that you're aware of. So that's kind of how I would describe that. Hope that helped.
Jamie asks a little bit about you, Maria. When you discovered your abilities, how did she learn about them?
Oh man, I went through years of literal hell. Just that's what it felt like, trying to understand what's going on with me. So it started when I was very, very young. I was like a toddler. My first memory, I think it was around 3 years old, but I remember the first paranormal thing happening. And those of you who've been following me for a while may know that I grew up in a haunted house. So I had all this paranormal stuff happening all the time, seeing apparitions, poltergeist activity, all that stuff. And I couldn't sleep. Basically been an insomniac my entire life, because there's so many paranormal things that happen at night for me, still to this day. So I always suspected, and I started to ask my friends when I was a kid, like, hey, do you ever does your doll ever tap you on the back when you're sleeping? Does that happen to you? Or like, hey, do you ever like see spirits? Like I started asking around, and couple of my friends were like, yeah, actually I have. And some were like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And then some actually made up stories to F with me. I remember they like made these elaborate stories about ghosts. They're like, actually, just like 3 years later, like, I just made that up. I don't know. I was like, why would you do that to me? Sorry, tangent. So anyway, so that was kind of like, I was starting to ask questions, and I would tell my mom and dad about it. And my mom and dad like were kind of afraid. And apparently my dad, had a lot of paranormal experiences when he was a kid and was traumatized by it. So he was not so open to like talking about it. So I was very alone, and I basically just was a psychic kid with no one to help me. And I just slowly but surely felt like my reality was unraveling. And I thought I must have some sort of severe mental illness. Once I got to be older, I got assessed, got MRI'd, got scanned and tested, and they were like, yeah, nothing's wrong with you. You're a very normal person. Sorry, we don't know. Here's a bunch of drugs so that you can sleep. And so, it got to the point where I couldn't function anymore. Like I couldn't sleep anymore. I wasn't eating. I was so constantly being harassed by different beings. And I was like, well, I could die from like sleep deprivation and like general like health going downhill because I can't function with all this stuff going on and no one's here to help me, or I could learn and research. So I just started researching and reading books and reading blogs and all that stuff. And then finally it hit me when I was like 18, 19, and I was really going through this like spiritual awakening when I was like 20, 21, I was in the midst of it, and I was like, okay, like, I think this is actually a gift, and I actually had gone to a monastery to like see if they could like take the entities out of me, because I was like, everyone thought I was like cursed, or my family thought I was like cursed or something. So they took me to this like monastery in Arizona so they could like pray over me and stuff, and totally traumatized me more. But even the monk was like, oh, you have the ability to see in other dimensions. And I was like, even the monk is telling me that. Like, okay, like I have to do something. So that's when I was like just feverishly ever since then, just looking stuff up, learning, taking classes, talking to other people. But really, I'm the only psychic friend that I know that besides Trang. I never had psychic friends or anyone else to help me with this stuff. To this day, I'm very much like alone until I started my TikTok. So that's kind of my long-winded, short, but yet very short version of the story.
Awesome. I think anyone else have any other questions? I'm gonna check on TikTok here. Okay, I think that's it.
Be patient. Those of you I just saw some comments that they're, that's where they're at right now. Be patient. It takes years to feel okay with this stuff. And it's very normal to go through times where it doesn't feel so good, because a lot's going to come up along the way. That's why I say shadow work is key. Working on your traumas, getting help, getting therapy. It's going to help you a lot to be able to absorb this stuff better. So
yeah. And Maria also mentions and touches on these topics as well in the course. And asks, how do you stop psychic attacks? I've seen that actually on your TikTok asked a couple times too.
Yeah. So for those of you who are curious about psychic attacks, yes, it is possible to deal with negative entities. Sure. I think people might think they're getting psychic attacks sometimes when their abilities are just opening up and they're suddenly aware of all this stuff and it feels like an attack, but there are legitimate psychic attacks. And the best thing you can do is to put up a boundary. So you can imagine a shield around yourself, your home, your car, your family. And you can say like, this shield protects me from any harmful energy, any energy that's not of the light, and no energy that is not of, the divine light may penetrate the shield. And you can also ask, your angels and guides to protect your energy and to deflect any energy that's coming at you. This is really important for empaths. Empaths may feel they're getting psychically attacked a lot because people are hooking into their energy because they're just psychic sponges, empaths. So unintentionally people are hooking into their energy, and it can feel like you might be like hooked into someone else's brain, like thoughts, and their thoughts might be in your head and body. And you're like, oh my God, this feels like an attack. So set boundaries. And you can also set boundaries throughout the day. Like right now I want to focus on work and I don't want to be talking to beings right now. So I'm putting my privacy shield up, you know, and you can imagine what it looks like. It reflects, no one can see what I'm doing, and I'm working. And when I'm done working, I'll remove the shield. So you can have different ones for different purposes, different times of the day, different times of the year, etc. So if you're going to like the holidays, I know it's probably the holidays are going to be really weird for a lot of people right now. And you might be like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Cause like I have some toxic family members and their energy just makes me feel yucky. You can make sure to put up like your energy protection so that you can say like whatever they say that's negative bounces off me and goes back to them. Like it doesn't, you know, does not enter my energy field. My energy field is protected from harm. And also that's empowering and healing too for people who have history of trauma. That little exercise and visualization is such a great way to like feel like you have power in your life again. So it's even if you can't visualize what the shield looks like, if you're not a visual person, just saying it and knowing it's there is such a healing thing as well.
Tara asks, how do you know this is something you should pursue professionally?
You know, it's kind of like when people say they're called to like the priesthood or whatever, there's this distinctive like knowing where you're like, I feel, and it may be all of a sudden out of nowhere, like I need to help people. I need to, like, you might start noticing more and more people are coming to you for help, like non-professionally. And it's like, okay, this is interesting. And like, I'm spending so much of my time helping people. Like I might as well just go all in with this and make it into a business or, you know, practice. And you might have things dropped into your life. Like, for example, I wasn't really thinking about doing Reiki, but I was shown Reiki in a vision from some angels that I work with. And that's how I became a Reiki practitioner. I was just like meditating on an oracle card that I pulled and I closed my eyes and they showed me and said, Reiki, you need to do Reiki. This is what you'll be doing. I ended up doing it. So it comes in like a whoosh sometimes and a knowing, and you might resist it at first because you're like, oh, but I have a cushy job. Why would I do that? So you could be like me and work a full-time job that's very intensive that you love and then do this on the side. But it is a distinctive feeling of knowing that just comes in, and it might just slap you in the face one day. So you might push it away. That's normal, but eventually it almost feel like you can't not do it.
I think that's it for everyone on TikTok. Just to let you know, because some people join at random times, we are going to post this playback on YouTube, hopefully tomorrow or the next couple of days. So, because there's people asking questions we've answered already. But yeah, I think that's it. Anyone else on Zoom have questions? Okay, with that, thank you so much, everyone. And it's so nice seeing everyone's faces. Some I've seen before, just through profile pictures. So yeah. Oh, thanks, Blair.
Thanks everyone who tuned in. Yeah, thanks, Blair. So good to see you. Thank you for everyone who tuned in on TikTok Live for our little seminar here on psychic abilities. And thank you for everyone here on Zoom, all the new faces, all the people that are come back again. It's so good to meet you all.
And thank you. And really, if it weren't for you guys, we couldn't be doing what we were doing today. Seriously. We would have given up so easily. We've been like, all right, we're done. No one's watching this.
And if it wasn't for Trang, none of this would be happening, because Trang, for those meeting her for the first time, she is the engine. She is the business brains behind this whole thing. She's also a palm reader, by the way, and she is a Reiki master, but she is so talented at business and putting stuff together. She's the one who encouraged me to finally get out there and be a practitioner. So I owe all this to Trang, and I hope we get to see more of her face so that you guys can get to know her a little better, because she's amazing. So thank you, Trang, for putting all this together.
Yes, of course. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye.